But is that something you also tell everybody else and like how important it is to try to stand out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got to figure out where your leverage is and how you can stand apart. And but it's understanding ultimately what is the client looking to see from you and sort of extract that and bring a little personality flair into it.
On.
You have to realize that, if you're being presented in front of a casting director or client, they may be looking at hundreds of people. So you have this very small window, maybe a few seconds to make that quick impression, and if you don't capture it in, let's say, the first 10, 15 seconds, they're going to move on.
What if the best careers aren't built on a master plan, but on saying yes to the unexpected? Mary Wharton didn't plan on becoming a modeling agent and booker. She was headed toward a career in textile marketing until a chance internship at Elite Model Management, which introduced her to the world of modeling. That unexpected detour led to a meeting with a former supermodel and a future at Locke Model Management, where Mary found not just a job, but a calling. Today, she's more than an agent. She's a mentor, advocate, and guide for models navigating one of the most competitive industries in the world. Her story is a powerful reminder that in modeling and life, success doesn't come from just showing up. It comes from being curious and a willingness to invest in yourself, only on Navigating Now. Mary Wharton, thank you so much. I am so excited to have you on because you just told me that this is going to be your first podcast, number one. And number two, you have been my agent at Locke Model Management out of North Carolina for years. And I've asked you to be on, and I'm just so excited to have you on because this is going to be an amazing conversation. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. I know I'm in great company, and I'm excited to be here. So let's do it.
Well, this is going to be awesome because you have a background in fashion and marketing. And you know that, like, the success of a model or in modeling isn't just about the looks, it's about the branding and the professionalism and the authenticity of the model. And that's something that you've stressed and taught me as a mentor and as my agent. And you kind of lead with the belief that beauty is both inside and out. And you emphasize that it's your character, it's your mindset, and your relationships that you make. And that speaks home to me because I've found that, and Andre Donka was on the other day and he just released his episode, and we talked about the importance of it's about the relationships. It's not the transaction. It's about the relationships that you have with the client, with the photographer, with the director, with the craft service person, and that translates into all industries about just being kind and having those relationships. And when I first started 25 years ago in this industry, you were one of those people that kind of held my hand in that. And I'm very grateful that I had someone like you and Ed Locke who could push me in the right direction and say, Blue, if you want a career out of this, you can do it. And you've always been that person for me, Mary, and you've just been a great agent, and I appreciate you.
No, thank you so much. Well, it's crazy. I celebrated my 18th year in the business back in May, and it's been quite a journey, and I've learned a whole lot. And I think one of the cornerstones of my approach to it, and for us as an agency, is looking at the relationship aspect of it and how that is so important, and knowing that this is not really a transactional business, that you have to get to know the people that you're working with and like foster that relationship and that friendship equally as the business side too. So
100%. Well, but did you always want to were you always fashion and marketing like that? What brought you to where you are today? Like, how did you find Lock Model Management? Like, what is the story behind that? Like, what is you're graduating and you're kind of getting into this? Like, what got you into this industry?
okay, so I studied textile marketing and design, and I had to do an internship in order to graduate. And when I began that program, it was sort of a segue out of uh, thinking about going the art route, getting an art
Mhm.
degree. So I do have an art background. I love being creative and fashion and interior design and all those things. And so I was trying to think of how could I parlay that into a career. Ended up in the textile program. And so I had to do an internship to graduate. And a sorority sister of mine that was a year ahead of me had done an internship with a modeling agency. And it had never crossed my mind before that. I didn't know anything about the business.
Sure.
I just thought, well, that sounds kind of glamorous and fun and and interesting. And
Yeah.
you know, combined a lot of the things that I was interested in. So I pursued that. I ended up getting a summer internship with Elite Atlanta.
Hmm.
Uh, this was back in 2003, so it's a little while ago.
Hmm.
So I did a summer internship there. Got a taste for the business. Um, Found that I liked it. I liked a lot of things about it. I came back, I finished school, and then I started searching for, a place to continue that here in Greensboro. And I actually worked for an animal hospital, a veterinary clinic for a couple years, ending college and post college. Animals is another big passion of mine. Um, and so in that interim, I was waiting for the opportunity to open up. I found Ed Locke and Locke Management online. The
Hmm.
company was super new at the time. I think he had been open for maybe a year and a half when I found him. Um, he was pretty much a solo operation. So connected with Ed Locke, we met up and had a very informal interview. I think we grabbed coffee and I ended up going to his house to sit down and talk with him and his wife. And um, we felt like it was a good fit and came on board, and the rest is sort of history. So it just kind of happened a bit organically.
Well, and you're a boutique agency, and you're based out of Greensboro, but at the same time, it's like you have tributaries all over, including Portland, Oregon, is another offset of Lock Model Management, and so you have two different like headquarters, let's call it. And you have created those relationships even though you're in North Carolina. Like a lot of people think, oh, LA is the only place, or New York or Miami, but it's like there's so many clients and potential for jobs even in North Carolina. But then you also have the tributaries that you have, the relationships that you built over the years and fostered, and it's like you can work full time all the time even out of North Carolina.
You can. I mean, I will say, and one thing about us is we try to be really transparent with people that are looking to get into the business, don't know anything about it, they're brand new, or people that are looking to expand, the markets that they're already repped in, and they're looking at the Carolinas or the Southeast. And so, one thing that we try to be honest about is this market in particular is a secondary market. Like most of the talent working here are doing this as a side hustle, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, it, it, uh, they have full time jobs, they have school or family and kids. And so this is sort of a secondary thing that they can parlay into their life, that they have the flexibility to do it and they want to do it. But to your point, if you multi-list and you expand into multiple markets and you've got multiple agents representing you, then absolutely you could make a full-time career out of it. But
Mhm.
I think ultimately depends on how far you want to pursue it and how much time you want to put into it, because it can be something just that you do a little bit here and there. Or it could be something that you aggressively go after and it's the passion that you want to do forever.
Well, speaking of passion, like you did not have your sights set on becoming an agent and working at a fashion at a modeling agency. So, what was it that maybe Ed said, or your first introduction with Elite, that kind of sparked something in you that was like, oh, this could, I have so much fun and I'm enjoying closing these deals, making these relationships with these models, seeing the model grow and land like a SAG commercial or something like that. Like, what was it that was driving you to stay in this career for as long as you have?
I think a lot of it came down to just the relationships. I like to help people. I like to see them succeed and grow. And I will say a hurdle that has been something for me to overcome over the years is I didn't really come into this realizing the sales side of it. I didn't initially connect the dots of being a booker or an agent is essentially being a salesperson, and that you
Sure.
are, you are trying to, book jobs and secure bookings, and you're selling your talent essentially and your services. And so I am not a salesperson like at heart. That is
Yeah.
not an innate skill for me. So
Hmm.
that's something that I really had to develop over time. And it was more about just the relationship side of it and, great connections that you can make. It's helping people fulfill their dreams and working with clients and just seeing the end product of all the hard work that you and the talent put into it from the casting to the booking to, the execution and seeing it out there is really exciting.
So you didn't realize that it was as a broker or an agent, you were really the sales oriented person, but you obviously learned and you're good at it. So was there a time when you were like, wow, I actually became an expert at this, or I'm actually kind of good at creating these relationships where people can count on me and trust me and realize that if I pitch 5 models to that client, they're going to get somebody that they like because I have that knowledge and experience behind me, and who I put forward is what's going to bring the most value to that client, and that's that relationship. Like, what was it? Was there a point where you're like, I'm actually pretty good at this?
Um, I think a lot of it was just coaching and mentoring as far as the partnership between Ed and I. He really was a mentor for me from the get-go, and I have to give credit to a lot of the foundation of what I learned and how I applied that skill set and how I grew to be in the role that I needed to be,
Mhm.
was the partnership between Ed and I and the trust that he put in me and just the advice and the professional guidance that I got. So it was difficult because I'm not like a pushy, aggressive person. I think I just had to learn how to open up and uh, know that at the end of the day, there's a relationship there that you need to foster and building trust with clients and talent to know that I'm here to help ultimately.
Mhm.
And I understand what your needs are, and I'm going to do my best to put the right people in front of you to execute your project.
Well, how is an agent and you personally, like, how do you gain the trust of, let's say, because their client is one thing, but then you also have the models that you represent. And so as a new model that comes on with Lock Model Management, like, how do you gain their trust? And like, is there a line? Is there something that you hold their hand? And like, what is the, because you're not pitching them, but you want to put them at ease and make them realize, like, we've got your back.
Yeah, I think well, there's sort of two approaches to that. We're working both with people that are brand new to the business. They don't know, how to get started. They don't know what that process looks like. And so there's sort of that development and guidance from, working with someone that is brand new versus bringing someone on like you that is not a local talent. You are experienced in the business. You're coming on to expand,
Mhm.
existing markets and add to the work that you've already created for yourself. And so there is definitely a development side to it with brand new talent where they onboard with us. And then we work, we coach them through portfolio development. What does that need to look like? Understanding how your look fits within the market. What are
Mhm.
the goals that you're looking to achieve, in the business? Are you a fashion person? Are you a lifestyle or commercial talent? Are you an actor? And so helping people understand what your lane is and how we can best approach that to uh, make
Benefit both sides.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because you can't come into it thinking I can be everything. You need to know what your lane is. You need to stay true to that and be authentic to that. But also, be diverse enough that you are not so one dimensional.
Mhm. Well, I love that you say that because that's every industry. It really is. Whether I'm speaking and knowing who I speak to and who my audience is and what problem I solve, or am I a uh, am I a lifestyle model? Am I an actor? And it's like I'd love to be everything. I'd love to be a runway, but I'm 6'1". It'd be nice if I was 6'2", right? And so there's what is your lane and what are you going to be best known for? What's your best skill set? How do you tell someone diplomatically that maybe that's not the lane you should be in? Like, is that hard to deliver that no to someone and say, you know what, I think you'd be best at lifestyle, or I think you'd be best as in this acting, or it? is that a difficult conversation to have, or is that easy?
I think for the most part, it's fairly easy because people are coming into this relationship knowing that we're here to guide them and offer some expertise and what we feel is going to be the best ultimately to maximize their career and their earning potential. And so, um, I like to think where I'm a pretty like honest, transparent person, and I think that that goes a long way in this business, and people ultimately do respect that
Mhm.
and understand that any advice or what might be taken as criticism or sounding a little harsh or not being fully aligned with where they thought they wanted to go is ultimately in their best interest. And that's really all we're trying to do is, look out for their best interest and guide them on, the best path.
Well, that's interesting you say that because that was like one of the hardest rejections that when I first got into it was that people when I was getting different agents, somebody would tell me something and I'd be like, "Well, wait a minute, I think I should be able to do this or I think I could do that." And what I was told by a mentor was that it if the agent believes in you and they think that you can make them money, they will represent you. Like that's part of the thing. Like just even getting my foot in the door and signing with an agent. And so in the end, it's if you can make them the agent money, they are going to represent you and push you, right? And so as soon as I released that, and I was like, oh, they believe in me enough and they are the expert in this field. They know the market. Like I don't know what the market is in Florida versus California. It could be different. And so you know the client, you know what the client likes. And so I had to relinquish that feeling of I know best to an agent. And you have been outstanding with that for me. As I mean, Locke Model Management is I will go back and I'll tell a story really quick. And that is like the building the trust and the relationship with the model in general is so important. Well, let alone with the client. But you are the only agent that I've ever had who has called me from a location in Mexico and said, "Blue, your flight is delayed. You might as well stay another 8 hours at the resort. You might as well keep hanging out with everybody from the shoot, and don't waste your time and go out to the airport." And that one phone call saved me 8 hours, and you didn't have to do that, but you had my best interest at heart, and it was like that immediately translated to me telling everyone what a positive experience I had being represented by you guys. And you just have always been so amiable and open with that. And I would suggest to anybody to definitely look you guys up because you're a family. You and Ed feel like family. And that is that relationship as a model and as a B market or an A market. I feel represented truly by you because I know that you have my back and everything that we do, and you proved that. And I think that relationship is what makes you stand out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, that's why I do it. And I wouldn't like to me, I understand the perspective of that being a standout to you. And like I'm so glad that we have like a history and that trust with each other, but it doesn't feel like something that doesn't feel like I was going above and beyond, right? That just feels like
Mhm,
innate to me. Like that is the service that we provide. That's like,
mhm.
that's just part of who we are. And so that doesn't feel like anything other than just common
Being
courtesy. Yeah.
Well, I think so. I did my producers always like, Blue, you need to be more active on social media and talk about things about your expertise, whether that is your modeling or your acting or speaking or whatever. And I did one about going above and beyond as a model and how to stand out and
Yeah.
how to book that casting and how a friend of mine who landed the Darth Vader gig went and got rented a Darth Vader costume and put it on, and that is what made the difference in the casting, and he landed the job, right? And so I did a little video, and you were like you commented on it, and you were
I
like,
shared
"It
it.
is
Yeah.
so important for models to do one specific little thing just to get above the crowd of everybody else." And that sometimes that's all it takes to be memorable to someone, and it most people don't do it. And because most people don't do it, It is going above and beyond. And most agents don't go above and beyond. It's mediocrity shouldn't be celebrated, but they do. They're just mediocre. And you aren't that. And that's what makes you stand out. And maybe you don't feel like you're doing that, but I know in my heart, as your model, that you do that. And so to me, you stand out.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it just kind of feels like second nature. And I think, again, that's a lot of what was ingrained in me in my sort of growth and journey in the business and being an agent and ultimately being now the office director here. Um, that just is that's just who we are. And I think that's who I am as a person. And so that was a pretty seamless integration for me, but it doesn't feel that just feels like the right thing to do. And so I think you
Mhm.
have to approach um, your life and like your business and how you treat people just with what feels right and how you would want to be treated and respected and respecting each other's time and good communication. And so it all sort of ties in together. And I don't want anybody, whether that's a client or a talent, to feel like they're getting a transactional relationship with me or with the agency.
Mhm.
That I do deeply care and that it goes beyond get this job done. Eh,
Mhm.
there's so much more depth to it than that, and I think that's really important to us as an agency.
Well, and that's the benefit of being supported by a legit agency, right? It's not on Instagram and you get pitched like, "Hey, would you do this job for us and we'll send you the clothes." And it's different of being an influencer. How do people have certain expectations when they come into the agency and they might meet with you? Do you have to calm them down a little bit and say, you know, we're here. There's a reason we do a contract. There's a reason that we look for usage and we try to like have your best interest at hand. Like, how is that conversation to an upcoming model? Like, is that an easy conversation to have?
Yeah, I think so. I think some people come into it maybe with overinflated expectations or just not understanding maybe how contracts work and like what does this mean and just understanding the little nuances of everything that has to happen for a job to come together in the work that we do on the backside is as far as, again, looking out for the best interest and making sure that the rates and the usage align with what feels fair, that nobody's
Mhm.
taken advantage of. And so um, I would say in the rare occasions where someone has come in and said, you know, uh, maybe overinflated that ultimately maybe that's just not the best fit for us as an agency and a talent. It again goes back to the trust and the relationship and I think people know that we're looking out for their best interest. And so there's not generally a lot of pushback on that. And
Mhm.
if there ever becomes friction, then, there's sometimes where we find that maybe it's not the best fit to continue moving forward together if, we're not aligned in that, how we see things.
Well, and that goes for the model and the client, right? Because you're not going to take on a horrible job if it puts the client or if it puts the model at risk or something like that. You really do care about the model because it's a win-win for both of you, right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like they're like, "Oh, my agent's just trying to make a dollar," but it's like you want that model to continue working, and you would love residuals to come in far past that single transaction too. So it's about that relationship build for sure. Do you find that that the relationships that you've made with the I guess is there attrition with your models or is it a family? Like, am I the only person that you've represented for so long? Like I know Andre speaks so highly of you guys. And we brought you up in the podcast episode too. And it was just like and he's international, right? So if you're doing it right by him and you're doing it right by me and I'm on the other side of the states, like is it a big family? Do you feel like everybody always checks in and it's just a great family environment that you've created with you and Ed?
Yeah, it does largely feel like that. And I have to like give you a big shout out, Blue, because you are definitely a standout as to one of those talents that you're doing your part to check in and say, hey, how's it going? What do you need from me? And is there anything that I can be doing to, to better this relationship for both of us, and putting myself out there? And so it's definitely a two-way street. Like, it
Mhm.
takes effort on both parts. And so I, I I think, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, it's
um,
just it's the relationship that you've fostered over a long period of time with your models. Like they do feel like it's a part. And I love that you said that it takes two because when I first started, I thought once I signed with an agency, and I did my portfolio that cost $700 at that time, like I was like, perfect, I'm done, all good. Now they're going to make me money. But it was like it takes consistently testing. It takes consistent travel. It takes creating new networks and relationship building. It takes me joining new markets. It takes me getting a hold of Polo and getting that tear sheet so that I can then have that for my portfolio. And I don't have my book. I still have my book, my actual physical book, but I don't add to it anymore, right? Everything's online now. But it's like I used to carry that around in New York and Munich and in South Africa. And it was like I was so proud of that book, but you would have to consistently pay and invest into it. And
yeah.
I learned early on that you have to continue doing that so that you stay fresh and so that you stay at top of mind of all the clients that you're pitching us to. And so it does take a two-way street. And if you're not in front center of everybody's a mind, then you're just losing out. And it's like it doesn't take that much to make that phone call to you. It doesn't, or to check in with an email and say, "Hey, Mary, I have like I just did some new digitals. I just tested. Hey, I just landed this commercial. Let's put this on my acting resume." But it's so easy not to do that. But it's just as easy to do it, and it doesn't take that much because you really do want it, right?
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, you have to take the initiative, and you have to be proactive and not expect that the agency's going to do everything for you. Or it's going to handhold you through
Hmm.
the whole process. Like, if you're not willing to meet us halfway and show that you're investing and that you're willing to invest in yourself and put the time and energy into it, and reinvest back in the business with portfolio updates and checking in with us. One thing that we don't like to do, or to feel like we are put in the position of doing, is chasing talent for communication, for responsiveness, for
Mhm.
current digitals, current updates. Like, these are industry standard things that you have to know and commit to coming into it. Otherwise, you're only hurting yourself and ultimately us too, because
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that because there have been many times that I've been on a shoot and they fly somebody in from New York and they have a tattoo now.
yeah,
And it's like, "W wait, you weren't supposed to have a tattoo, or you shaved and you had blonde hair and now it's black hair." And it's like, you have to keep those agencies informed and like what you look like, because that could make you look bad to the client. And then you have to explain yourself to the client, I'm assuming, and have that hard conversation like, "Sorry, my model didn't show up the way that you thought that they were gonna show up." And that makes you look bad, right? And so it's a win-win with everybody if you stay current and you stay updated.
yes. So that is something that we are very try to be very regimented about, and that we expect from everybody, is that you're going to keep us updated. You're going to let us know if something's happened or changed with your hair, or if you've got tattoos. And that's where digitals come into play. That's where
Mhm.
an updated personality video comes into play. I never want to misrepresent someone, or have someone show up and be something other than what the client expected. That is kind of like worst case scenario. And
Mhm.
thankfully, it's never really happened in like a big damaging way. But you have to put safeguards in place to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, and I think that's just that two-way and understanding that it's a win-win for everybody if you just stay, and it doesn't take much. Just like it doesn't take much to go above and beyond as a model, right? Like how to stand out to that client and basically be better than so that you're that much more memorable. Like, do you have a story like, I guess you jumped in on the conversation on my post on that one because you had realized how important it was, and that's obviously something that I haven't only heard from you. Like, Blue, you should if you're doing a Volvo commercial casting, try to grab your friend's Volvo and like open the door with a Volvo logo or something like that. So at least you're showing a little appreciation to the client. And so they're like, oh, at least he's trying, right? And it's like it just makes I've tried it for a Jeep commercial last year and I was like, I own a Jeep, right? And it's like anything that you can say to make you stand out, like I know how to drive the car because I already own one, or martial arts. It's like, oh, I've already trained like this. And it's like those little things. I know that you've told me that, but is that something you also tell everybody else and like how important it is to try to stand out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got to figure out where your leverage is and how you can stand apart. And um, it's one thing to look at, maybe a casting request or a script or a set of improv takes that you need to execute for an audition. But it's understanding ultimately what is the client looking to see from you and how can you um, sort of extract that and bring a little personality flair into it.
Mhm.
And that's something that we preach a lot is show your personality, show your authenticity and, be a little quirky, be a little funny. That's where you're going to stand out and be memorable. And you have to realize that, if you're being presented in front of a casting director or a client, they may be looking at hundreds of people and it's
Yes.
very limited time to look at each person. And so you have this very small window, maybe a few seconds to make that quick impression. And if you don't capture it in, let's say, the first 10, 15 seconds, um, they're going to move on. And so you have to be able to understand, like, what can I say or do that's going to give me that extra little something, whether it's a prop or tying in something personal to the product or service. But those are definitely things that we preach because otherwise you can get lost in the mix.
Oh, that is golden, and that is something naturally that I've tried to do, because it makes it fun too. Like, it's not great to get an email that says, "Hey, can you do a casting in the next 12 hours for this?" And it's like, oh, like, how do you make it fun? Well, you be a ham, and I'm always being a ham. Like, how can I stand out and be have a little fun on this casting? I think that you preach that for sure. How has that translated into your job that you're doing now? Like, how do you stand out to clients? Like, how have you taken a career and become successful at it, and how do you stand out as a booker or an agent to clients or to new people? Like, that's a hard navigating for you to do all the time because you had mentioned that it's not always about, you didn't realize it was about selling,
Yeah.
but you kind of are. Like, you've grown into it and you've become very good at it naturally. So how do you consistently stand out as an agent, as a booker, or as an agency?
I think just developing a friendship, honestly. I mean, it comes back to being a friend, being someone that you can trust. But also, I'm at the place where I've been doing this for so long, over 18 years. Like, I know my stuff. Like
Mhm.
I know contracts, I know pricing, I know I understand what a client expects and how things need to run from a production standpoint. And so I'm bringing my knowledge to the table and letting them know that I can be trusted. I'm going to put the right people in front of you. I'm going to price it fairly and what feels fair to all parties involved and that I'm going to approach it honestly and I'm going to be straight with you if I think that something doesn't look or feel quite right. So I think it's just a combination of, understanding the needs and the budget and the talent expectations. And there's a lot of components that have to come together
Yeah.
from my standpoint to be successful. But I feel like, I've been doing it for 18 years now that I can sort of integrate all those components in a successful way where they can trust that I'm going in the right direction.
You've fallen into this position and you're really good at what you're doing. And you're obviously finding a reward of helping other people and your talent, and your models, and then your relationships that you're building with your clients. Like, how is that translated into the seat that you're in now, Mary?
I think it's just giving me a lot of confidence. I didn't think this is where I would end up when I started this journey necessarily, and it kind of happened organically. We're in a position now where, Ed Locke, who is the owner and founder of the agency, he's based on the West Coast. Our operations are based on the East Coast in North Carolina, and so uh, he has entrusted a lot in me. He's put a lot of faith and confidence in me, which in turn helped to build me up and give that confidence to myself. And so I'm coming from a place of feeling like I know what's in the best interest of the agency and the talent and the clients. And yeah, it's definitely been a big confidence booster to grow and to end up where I am now.
Well, so for me as a speaker, in order to scale, I had to bring on, um, I had to bring on an employee, and I call her my unicorn because she's like, I have to like basically hand everything over to her and hope that she runs with everything and does a great job and that her best interests are me, right? And that is what Ed found with you. And it's like you are a unicorn. And Ed was a supermodel before. And I mean, he knows the business, he had relationships, but it's like he can only do so much. And in order for him to scale and to spread that relationship build as an agent, um, it's like he needed somebody who understood him, understood the benefits of the clients and the relationships, and you just ran with that. And so you are an exceptional booker and an agent, and I love that you've represented me for as long as you guys have. And Ed is a great man, and I love being represented by you guys. And you talk about relationship, like when I fly in and you're like, let's go out for barbecue. It's just like that isn't every agency, and you do that. And I don't know, from the bottom of my heart, I cherish the relationship that we have and knowing that you represent me, Mary, and Ed as well. And I love that.
Oh, well, likewise, we appreciate you and like your trust and the relationship that we've had for so long now. And again, that's just one of those things that feels kind of second nature to me is anytime someone's flying in for a job and there's time for us to meet up, whether I go to set and see them or if we grab coffee or dinner, I can't let that opportunity pass by without
Um,
meeting that person and just spending a few minutes together because a lot of the times the relationships that we have with the talent is it's over phone, it's over text, it's email. We don't, we might go years without meeting face to face in
mhm.
person. So that's such a special treat to be able to make that happen. And if it takes a little time out of the day, it's so worth it again have that human interaction and that personal touch that I think is really important.
And you do a great job in all seriousness. And you've obviously grown and you've become as good as you are. And the agency has obviously exploded and you have a huge talent board under you. What is one of the biggest challenges that you've experienced as an agent or a booker? Like what is the biggest no that you've heard within your position or your seat? And how did that translate into becoming better now?
I think there's one of two sides to that. I think part of it is sort of the internal struggle that you have sometimes of, that voice that will say this is too much or you can't handle this, and you've bitten off more than you can chew, and so sort of fighting that inner dialogue to have the confidence to prove to yourself that you can handle those challenges is kind of an ongoing thing. And from sort of a business standpoint, not necessarily one specific instance, but there are many occasions where, we as agents, we put a lot of time and energy, like we put our heart and soul into, castings and not only communicating with talent and making sure that they've done what they need to submit. And we're putting bids together and putting big estimates and, working on jobs that can be very time consuming.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot that happens on our end where we're having to service the talent and the clients. And it was this huge proposal and maybe we didn't get the job at the end of the day. And so there is that sense of rejection that we as agencies will face just as, the talent do, and that you feel like you've done the best that you can do and ultimately it might get awarded somewhere else. And so you have to be able to take that with a grain of salt and look back and reflect and say, could we have done better? Like maybe where could we have shined a little bit brighter? What can we improve on next time so that we're putting our best foot forward? So it's kind of that evolution, that inevitable thing that will happen. Eh, and it's not just something that's a one-off thing.
Is that something that's translated to you personally? Like, obviously, your confidence is boosted. You could do sales if you really wanted to, because you're kind of in that position. Like, has how has that translated into your non-professional life? As just you, like, not being in the seat that you are. Like, have you grown personally because of that? Of all of these experiences, all these people that you've met, the traveling that you have been able to do, like meeting all these amazing people. I mean, you've met so many great people and clients and work. I'm sure you have a storyboard of everything. Like, you have all these great stories and fun facts and horrible stories where the model ended up fainting, or like, I'm sure you have this huge thing. But it's like, how has that helped make you grow as a person and who you are with your animals, and like how have you grown as an individual just based off of the seat that you've been in?
I think again, it ties back to self-confidence. And I feel now that I'm in my 40s and I've lived a little bit of life now, I feel more sure in myself than I think I ever have, both from a professional and a personal standpoint. And so I think you have to look at uh, challenges or setbacks as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I've really trying to embrace that and remember that here in, the last handful of years, just being on a journey of growing and learning and trying to be the best person that I can be, both personally and professionally. Um, but it's just made me feel more sure of who I am and what my morals are and my integrity and how I approach my life and my decisions and my relationships. And so um I feel like I'm, have gotten to a place where I feel really at peace and confident with most of those areas in my life.
Well, coming from me, who is one of your models, I will say hands down that you have always put me first. And after a conversation with Andre, we know that you do that, and you and Ed have our back. And it's like, your agency is just speaks for itself because you are relational, and it is definitely not transactional. I would tell anybody, if they were ever interested in being represented, that they should definitely be represented by you, because it's just a family feeling, and I love that, and that makes you guys stand out.
Yeah, we definitely like to treat, everybody like family and that you're important, and we have time for you, that we can have conversations, we can get to know you. You could throw a dart on anybody on our board and I'm going to be able to tell you a few facts about them. They're not just a face, they're a person, and they have history and they have depth and they have personality. And so it's important for me and for the agency too to know these people, and that allows us to better represent them and to push them to succeed, I think.
Oh, I love that you said that, because that is the epitome of representation. And just to be able to say and back up what you said, to be able to throw a dart onto somebody's like comp
Mm.
card, it, that is you, and that is Ed, and that is your agency, and I love you guys for that, and I love what you've done for me, because you have made my career last as long as it has, and you have landed me several jobs that I feel blessed to have, and just knowing that you have my back and knowing that you've changed my life, Mary, um, is very special to me, and I
Oh,
appreciate you.
you. Likewise, there's a lot of gratitude on our end too, and just appreciate, you trusting in us and and sticking with us. And it's a blessing to get to see you and other people shine and be successful. That's what it's all about.
Who you've done your job. How how can people find out more about you and connect with you, and then also about Lock Model Management? Like how does a model become a model with you? Like how do they find representation from you? How do you become their mother agency?
A lot of it is word of mouth. People that have been with us, they will tell, friends or people looking to get into the business, that they've had a good experience. So a lot of it is just positive word of mouth. We get a good amount of traffic through our website. You can submit on lockmodels.com or Lock Management. We have both domains. So there's a submit form. We don't do open calls or walk ins. So it's usually a combination of, hey, I was referred by so and so, and then we go from there, or they submit online. And we review as a team. And if we feel like, there's an opportunity to pursue and have a discussion, then that's when we connect and go from there.
Well, and that is a great plug for you guys. And I wanted to say also that it to an aspiring model or someone who wants to get into the agency, it's that if they do apply and submit and they don't you are going to reply to them. But if you deliver a no to them, not to take it personally, because sometimes, and this was a big thing that I did not understand, is that maybe you represent someone who looks just like them and there's only so many positions on your board that you can have. So if there's 5 blues, why would you
Yeah.
take 5? It's just take one that looks just like me and you represent me full hearted, right? And so it it's not a no that you can't become a model. It's a no with just your agency. There's more than one agency. And so it
Right.
not to take it personally. And you guys have been able to do that. And that was a lesson that I learned at the very beginning. It was like, oh, you can't take it personally because you're not in the job of being mean. It's like, no, how if they're going to A, make money, and B, if you can help them, right? And if it's a good fit, then it's a good fit.
Right. Well, and I think it's important for, people looking to get into the business that it is equal parts, the physical presentation, how you look and how you present on camera, but your personality and how, authentic you are and how genuine you are, that you can kind of come into this with some grace and humility and be willing to learn and grow. And so it's sort of having that full package. And
Mhm.
that's always been our approach is to, feel like that person is representing us as a brand and how we wish to portray ourselves. Uh,
Mhm.
the image and the reputation that we want to have that starts, but it's the talent's responsibility to represent themselves in us well too. And so you have to have all those things kind of working together. But it can definitely come down to maybe just the timing's not right, or
Yes.
we already
Mhm.
have your look, and it's not fair to our existing talent that we've already invested in and they've invested in to take on more of that, right? As a boutique agency, that's just never been our approach.
You can't have 5 blues. You just
Yeah.
can't. You can only have 1 blue Stiley. I
No,
I agree.
well,
Well,
only one.
there's only one. What with that in mind really quick, I just wanna ask you, like, if somebody was to get into, wanted a career in modeling, is there one thing that you would tell them that they should do? And then you might have just said it honestly about creating those relationships and it being 2 ways and staying up and being your authentic self. But it's like, if somebody wants a 25-year career of something like that, is there something that you tell them, like, "You need to do this"? Like, what would you tell that model, getting into it?
Yeah. So, you absolutely have to come into it being willing to invest in yourself, and that comes in the form of building a portfolio and maintaining that, layering, adding dimension to a portfolio that can show you being versatile, right? And so that's something that has to be executed over time. It's investing in classes and workshops; those are hugely important. So you're understanding common courtesy and set etiquette and how to do auditions, how to self tape, and
Mhm.
both from the skill set side and from the technical side. Like the presentation is everything, and that's in how how you appear and how your image translates in your portfolio and how your castings and auditions are, how you show up on set, that you're coming prepared. And so you have to be willing to, invest in yourself. At the end of the day, this is a business. And so if you're not willing to treat it as such and put some due diligence into it, um, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And it's an ongoing thing,
Bingo.
right? Technology is changing every day and the way this business is evolving and expectations. And so you have to be willing to adapt to that. It's not what it was 10 years
20
ago.
years ago or 10 years ago.
Uh,
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. It's whether it's you have your own studio at your own home and you're able to do castings via Zoom, or you can just do a quick recording. How do you hold the phone? Is it horizontal or is it up? Right. And it's like these little things, taking acting classes,
yep.
learning a new skill set. Like I have a high performance driver's license, so I can do the car commercials more than just the driver. Right. And it's like, but continuously investing in yourself and being more marketable so that you can represent me more and get me more jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have to be willing to put some work into it. It's not just if you come into this thinking, well, I'm an attractive, good looking person and I can do this. Like you're mistaken if you come into it with that mentality and you're not willing to put some time and energy into it because that'll translate to us. If we see that you're not growing and learning, like there's only so far that we can go together. That's going to
Yeah.
translate to the client and the casting director. And if we see as the agents that you're not taking the time to learn how to do things correctly, then you're not going to get submitted or pushed as a talent if we don't feel that you're ready.
Well, and that is honest truth. And that's being your authentic self. And you guys, I would press anyone if you're lucky enough to meet with you and submit with you. I would say that you're in good hands, as Allstate says, because that is the epitome of Locke Model Management. And you, as my agent, I love you, Mary, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day because you're on the East Coast and being authentic with me and sharing some nuggets for people who want to be a model, who want to get into the talent agency or become an actor. And you would be lucky to be represented by you guys. And thank you so much for continuing your representation with me and always pushing me a little bit past my limits and saying, Blue, you need to send us all these things.
Well, you're fabulous. You've always stayed so on top of it and you're, incredibly self-motivated and you're genuine. And so that's been apparent to us from the get-go. And we appreciate you, Blue. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. And thank you for coming on your first podcast. And I got to give a shout out to your mom, Cindy, because I know she cannot wait to see this episode and hear her daughter's voice. And I just thank you so much, Mary, for being a part of my life and for your and Ed's trust in me as a model to represent your brand and your image. And just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being in my life.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. I'm really grateful and appreciate this opportunity and I appreciate your friendship, Blue. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Navigating Now. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.